Hello, Yes But Why listeners. This is your host, Amy Jordan. Welcome to Yes But Why, episode 270. My interview with Jenny Christner, MD, the Dean of the School of Medicine at Baylor College of Medicine. But first, let's talk about our sponsors. Yes But Why podcast is sponsored by Audible. Sign up today for your 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy. You can get a free audiobook download as well as access to hundreds of books and podcasts. So I've been taking this short story class lately, and the thing that I'm writing requires a little research. So I searched the topics on Audible and found myself quite a few great books to listen to while I'm out doing errands, and that'll help me once I sit down to rewrite the story I'm working on. Audible is a great resource. Go now to audibletrial.com/yesbutwhy to sign up and get your account today. Yes But Why podcast is also brought to you by podcastcadet.com. Podcastcadet.com is the company that my husband and I run to help podcasters. Go to podcastcadet.com and connect with us now. We want to help you start or improve your podcast. We can help you one-on-one with your individual needs, or we can do a personalized boot camp built just for you and your team. Whatever it is we can do to help, let us know. Mention code YBY20 and you'll get 20% off the first service or workshop you buy. We can't wait to hear from you. Podcastcadet.com. Yes But Why podcast is also brought to you by True Hemp Science. True Hemp Science is our Austin-based resource for vegan-friendly whole plant extract CBD oil. You know, lately my hands and forearms have been aching with carpal tunnel, so I got the CBD muscle rub lotion from True Hemp Science to help calm the nerves causing the trouble in my wrists. Total game changer. Really soothes me. Check out truehempscience.com to see all the CBD products available to you now. Use code YesButWhy7 to get 7% off your order of $50 or more. You get all the therapeutic goodness of CBD, plus you'll get a free packet of 2 yummy CBD edibles with your order. truehempscience.com. This week on Yes But Why, I talked to Dr. Jenny Christner, doctor, educator, and improviser. Listen in as we chat about her dreams of being a ballerina, her joy when she found improv comedy classes, and the creation of Christner Strategies, LLC, her new life coaching company. An amazing chat about using improv to help doctors. I now present to you Yes But Why episode 270. Dr. Jenny Christner on the benefits of using improv to develop empathy and listening skills. Enjoy. I'm Amy Jordan, and this is Yes But Why podcast. Yeah. Let's do it. So my first question is about you as a creative kid. Like, what were your fun projects that you did as a kid? Were you making movies? Were you building forts? How did it manifest?
I remember I had a big imagination, and one of my, I don't remember totally what this game was, but I remember distinctly my mom had lots of these like flowing like nightgowns and scarves and stuff. And I remember that I would put them on and I would be a queen. I'm not sure a queen of what land or anything, but, and the staircase was like the carriage. And I remember I would be traveling to places, and I had like a little brother, and I would make him do things like he would be the knight or he would be the horseman, like whatever, you know. And when he was young, he would do whatever I said, but that, you know, changed over time, of course. But I remember that. I love to get dressed up and pretend like act out all these different scenarios. I remember that was really huge. I was a huge Barbie person. I loved my Barbies, but I remember having very elaborate like soap opera scenarios with the Barbies, like very elaborate. A lot of them would end up like, maybe it's TMI. I'm not sure. They would end up like, you know, like like tied like to the dresser, and then Ken would have to come in and rescue them. And I actually think that's a common theme, honestly, as I've right. I think it's a fairly common theme when you're younger.
Oh, absolutely. They only show you fairy tales which like open with the mother dying in every one.
Every Disney film, the mother dies.
Yeah, and then you need a man to come rescue you from whatever terrible thing has befallen you. And usually there's either tying up physically or with a magical spell. So yeah, I mean, you've got it. You were exactly on point.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I did a
your
lot
storytelling
of that.
structure as a child, really solid.
I remember I wrote a lot of stories too. And so I remember, so I was in love with like Wonder Woman. Like I thought Linda Carter was the bomb. Like, so I wrote my own Lasso Lady. So I have my own like little comic book of Lasso Lady. I did that. But yeah, I love to write creatively tons. Like that was definitely, I was very into ballet. And so I remember I was writing, I wrote a lot about this like drama. It was a teen drama about a girl who wanted to be a ballerina and her mother was not supportive. So I remember I did lots of creative writing.
What a great way to work it out.
Biography, but no, right. Yeah.
Hey man, biographies can be creative, like just because your life has been wild doesn't mean, I love that though. I believe there are shows now, if you want to, reflect on your ballerina days, there are shows now about teen ballerinas who have like a tough time. So, maybe somebody saw your script and was like, this is actually a great idea.
I was shocked on the Disney Channel or whatever, they've got a show On Point, which is about like young girls, like kind of going through that experience or whatever. I never got to have that experience because my mother wasn't supportive, but I wrote about it in my teen novel. Yes. So it's there. Yeah. And then of course I did theater, right? So I did theater when I was young, for sure. Like all the school,
high school,
all the school plays, all the high school. So
did you guys do plays and musicals or just musicals? What was your?
So it's really interesting because now my daughter is like seems to be musicals, but we did mostly plays. And I do not have a voice. So it also could be that I don't remember musicals because I can't sing and I could have just blocked that out. But I was in all the plays. Plays were,
what kind of plays were you guys doing? My school, I went to an all-girls school. We had to go to the boys' school to do plays, and it was all musicals that I was aware of. And then later I found out that they were doing some plays, but they didn't need all the ladies. Right. They just mostly were like, ladies, come for the musicals. We'll let you know if we need help with the plays. But what kind of stuff did you do in school? Just because I'm interested because I didn't go to a normal high school.
Well, I'm not sure. I went to an all Catholic high school. I'm not always sure that's normal either. But,
sure.
So we did some of these. I'm like, really? Do these exist? So we did the Egg and I, which I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but apparently back in the day it was really the hot diggity dog. But the Egg and I was one of them. Then, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. What was the name? I was one of the main leads. Oh my God, I should have looked. I can't remember, but
it's okay. Do you remember anything about what happened in it?
So I did one of the main ones I did in high school when I was older and I had the lead. It was, I remember I was the mom of this like madcap family, right? Like, cause that's the thing, right? So I had to like, walk out with my hair all like wacky and in a bathrobe and like sleepy. And, I remember I had to say one line about the J-men. Like it was something about, oh no, the J-men are coming. And I had no idea like what the J-men were, but the audience laughed, like the parents laughed. And I guess it's some reference to like World War II or like, I still right now don't know who the J-men are, but I remember saying like, oh no, the J-men are coming. So there was that. What's the play about like the Salem,
the Crucible?
Our
Town?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that one, like something like that.
I was like the Salem Witch Trials, Crucible?
Yeah.
No, not that one.
No,
okay.
No, but it was
Our Town, nicer.
No, it was kind of like It was a little dark. It's a little.
Sure. It has a flip. It has a flip. There's definitely a moment where it's all like, "Are you paying attention?" You're like, "Whoa."
Right.
Oh, I was not. I was not. So I'm into it though. Interesting. I ask because, recently, I was like on a thread with like moms who are also in theater, and they were talking about how a few of them, their jobs were like high school drama. And they're like, guys, what are plays that you did? You know, we want to do more diverse stuff, but like, what did you guys do so I could at least try to think of stuff that's similar in tone, you know, because now it's like every play you read, you're like deeply political, can't do it. Right. All about sex, can't do it. Yeah. Okay, what's happening? I don't know, but there's way too many weird things that I feel like are problematic and I don't understand. No. You know what I mean? So like their plays are just a wild crapshoot. And so they were trying to find new stuff, but they just didn't know what to do. So then we started all having this big discussion about like what we did when we were growing up and like, oh my God, I can't believe we did this stuff. Like, I went to the all girls school. I was with, did like, you know, Oklahoma and, Guys and Dolls. So very basic stuff, but, and just milquetoast, you know what I mean? Like nothing where it's like, oh, here's a serious point here. I mean, we did Jesus Christ Superstar, but we too were at a Catholic school. So it wasn't really,
yes. I think we did that one too. Yeah.
I mean, that one's a pretty good one. You know, Andrew Lloyd Webber, he knows what's up.
Yes.
Also, I feel as if perhaps you and I are in the same generation. So like, it was very popular at a certain time.
Yeah.
So that's so super fun. So tell me, you want to be a ballerina. You are acting and all this stuff. But turns out not what you ended up doing. How did it transition? And, you know, did it have to do with that mom character from that book that you wrote?
So a little bit. I have to say, so I really honestly at that time desperately wanted to be a ballerina, not so much theater at the time, but that was certainly part of my life. And I actually got to the point, it was pretty exciting, where I was in Columbus at Ballet Metropolitan, which still exists and is their premier, ballet company. And I had to choose. I had gotten the scholarship in the summer, and I had to choose about whether I was going to get really serious and go to high school just for a half day and then spend a half day with the company and, kind of go that route, or not. And I decided not to. And I think part of I've probably been a little serious. I'm a little risk averse, although that's getting a little bit better. And the serious part of it is that my family always struggled for money, and and I just didn't want to have that kind of life, where we were always struggling. And I thought, I don't know if I can be a famous ballerina, right? Because if I couldn't go to New York City and be with Balanchine and, and all that, like, I wasn't sure I wanted to do it, which, that was a little short-sighted. But, and also at the same time, I was also developing, and, I did not have a dancer's body. That changed like overnight. I was like, whoa, like, I don't look like you guys, like, at all. And so I think there was some body image stuff. There was just like, I wanted a safe bet. So I decided to not pursue that. And then I just stopped lessons. I stopped everything. Like, I think it was too emotional, like, if to keep going on and knowing I could have had this life and there are times when I do wonder, like, what would have happened? Like, who knows? But I didn't. So, and I'm pretty, things turned out okay. But so I didn't do that. My mother was a nurse. My dad was a respiratory therapist, and I wouldn't say they pushed me to be a doctor, but it was kind of like, you're smart, you should be a doctor, was said more than once. And I liked science, so I did like science. I liked biology. I liked it, and so I just kind of was the good little girl and said, okay, I'm going to do pre-med and all of that. And I remember distinctly when I went to, and I still in college, I did some community theater still a little bit. So I could keep a hold of that in college. But then when I was interviewing for medical school, I distinctly remember I did not want to go into medical school to help people. Like, that's not that I don't want to help people, but that's like your classic tale. I want to be a doctor because I want to help people get better and, and make the world a better place. And I really wanted to go to med school so I would have a stable income. That was true, but you couldn't say that back then, right? Like people, so that,
people
so
hate honesty.
That.
They're like really not into,
like, please don't be honest in your interview.
Oh my goodness. Why are you alerting me to poverty? I don't want to think about it. Oh my God, you guys, I have to go rest in my Tesla, guys.
Right. Yes,
so hard.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, you're right. Most people don't want to talk about it. So did you have a go-to story?
I just did the typical, I liked science. I liked biology. I think I said I wanted to help people. I mean, I didn't want to not help people, but
sure.
But, but it wasn't like my, driving, passion. I was doing research. I did research. I went to Ohio State, the Ohio State University. You have to get that "the" in there. And I did research. I was doing research, and I actually kind of liked that. It was kind of fun, So I talked about the research that I did, and I did actually really enjoy that. I found it really interesting. So I could tell a decent story as to why. And then medical school is just, it crushes all creativity. Like it just, especially back then. I think now we're trying to be more humane about it. But all you do is go to class and study. That is all you do. Like, that's it. And you read scientific articles. And I remember, I think I tried to write something creatively because I've always kept journals, and I've always also tried to keep my writing piece. And I remember I don't know how to write creatively. I don't know what are adjectives, it was very depressing, actually. Yeah, there was that. And so medical school is not fun times, but then after medical school, you do residency. And so that's when you pick your field, and I chose pediatrics. And I have to say, I did love residency. That was really awesome. And I think part of it was I was a decent resident. So as as you go up the ladder for, year 1, 2, 3, I got to, lead other students and residents and teach. And so I found that fun. And I think that's where actually the kind of the theater comes back in, right? So, when you're teaching or giving a presentation, you get to put on this new persona. And that's really where I felt, all that stuff, I could use it. And I kind of saw, I can do this. Or when you're talking to families, right? You sometimes have to put on a different persona, or you have to create, and you have to be resourceful. And that's where I was like, wow, I can use some of this stuff, and I can still, be creative. And so that's where it started, kind of the inkling started to come back. And then I think where it really came back was I decided pretty early on that I did not want to be a doc that saw patients 9 to 5, because that would that just was not for me. That would drive me batty. So I chose academic medicine, which is where you get to teach, and you get to give talks, and you get to do research, and you get to see patients, and you get to do kind of a little bit of everything. And then eventually I kind of did academic administration. So leading, being in charge of the students now, and being in charge of the people you're teaching. And I started to give talks at all the meetings, and all around the country. And that's really where having that presence, people would always say that I had a presence, and that I owe all of that to theater, right? That is all I think from that. And I enjoyed that, right? Because you're still getting up on a stage. You're not getting to be Cleopatra or, anything, but you are getting up on a stage, and you have to engage your audience, and you have to look at the audience and see where are you missing, and where are you, connecting, and where are you not connecting. And I liked being able to change course to make sure I got my audience involved. And that definitely became a part of what I did, and I think really helped me in my leadership roles. So,
wow. You mentioned that during your medical school experience, it was super just soul crushing. Yeah. And I've definitely heard that before. I don't think I feel like every television show also that presents it is What do you guys think would be the worst thing that could happen? Let's put that in. That's the first episode,
Right.
And that's true, and I wonder if it's like different kinds of brains, like soaking up information, like maybe the bulk of, because I'm thinking like, they're just like, okay, we have so much information that we have to tell them. How do we get them to do it? And some guy's like, we'll just tell them everything and they have to memorize it. And we have to tell them all of it immediately now. And they're like, I don't know. It's a good idea. I think we should go with it, And so some guy was like, just yell it at them. They'll be fine. They were like, he was a drill sergeant. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that sort of like you went into it. Was the experience so dramatic to you that's why you decided to go back in? You're like, listen, I would love to help the patients, but the people who need me the most are these people having a hard time in medical school. I got to save them. Right. Yeah. And then you went in and tell me, you're doing these speeches. What is it that you're advising, these educators on doing? Is it like changing the way that they're putting the information out there? Is it like adding soft skills on top of the deep, heavy memorization, like maybe a volleyball team? What do you talk about?
So I think, it's really interesting too, because this whole concept of wellness, and that's a fairly new, like that wellness was not part of medical speak for trainees, back in my day. But so I think I really started, it was all about teaching. So I did a couple of special fellowships on how to teach better. And so it was about, how do we teach students more effectively, right? And so that was key. And there are competencies. And so how do we get students to be competent, not just memorize, like you were saying, but be truly competent? And yes, some of those soft skills like communication. I remember I gave a talk on professionalism, because professionalism is one of those real big things that people talk about. Like, I know it when I see it, but how do you describe it, and how do you cultivate professionalism in students and in residents? And so lots of how do we evaluate students? Did lots of talks on how do you evaluate students to make sure that they can do the job well. And yes, a lot of those soft skills are really, really important, and are probably, I say to this day, more important, especially in this day and age. You can look up any fact about anything in like 2 seconds, right? On your anything, but it's not as easy to tell a patient bad news, or it's not as easy to explain to a mother how to better parent her child, right? Without insulting, or those are really important skills, right? And I remember one patient's mom, she came in and this is when I was still seeing patients, and she had brought her little kid to everything. And she said, I love you. Do you know why I love you? Because you're just like a real person. She goes, I was behind you at Walmart. And so what this was is, I remember I had been at Walmart, and my 2-year-old daughter at the time was like screaming. And so I just like got the lifesavers, from like off the little checkout thing, and just started shoving lifesavers in her mouth, right? To calm her down, right? I'm the pediatrician, okay, at the big academic place, yes. And so I remember that there was this mom behind me, and she was kind of looking at me and smiling, but it was out of context. I didn't recognize who she was. And then when she saw me in the office at that moment, I was like, oh, you were the mom at Walmart standing beside me that saw me shove lifesavers into my daughter's mouth so she'd stop crying. And she's like, yes. And that's why I come, because you're just real. You're like a real mom that gives us real advice about, parenting and being and so that was, I've always just been me. I've never been like a hoity-toity professor. And that's actually caused some issues in my career, because I will not ever be a hoity-toity professor. And I'm just me. But one of my bosses at one point said, when I moved up the ranks to a different position, she said, Jenny, now I know you're very successful, but you are now X position. You're going to have to tone it down. You're going to need to tone it down. And I was just like, okay. But I did not tone it down. I continued being very loud and flamboyant and me, and that it's got to be a right fit for the institution. But I've always been able to find the right fit, so it's okay.
So when you're going in and giving these speeches on, you know, a varied way of education practices and, you know, how to evaluate, you know, good doctors and how to be professional, people are pushing back. People are like, listen, everything's fine. I don't know why you've got these changes. We're really interested in keeping it. Like, that just seems so, I mean, like, I get why I've definitely been yelled at in hundreds of places for laughing too loud.
Yeah.
Which I take as a compliment every time. I'm like, you heard me. Good. Yeah. But at the same time, like, what kind of reactions are you getting that you're having to overcome?
So I think, a lot of times, you know, it's unfortunate in a way that the crowd you're speaking to is oftentimes you're preaching to the choir. Like, so oftentimes the crowd that would be there is the crowd that signed up to come to this, right? And they're like, yeah, you know, like, okay, right, you know. Totally. And so then and now I would say things are much better than they were 20 years ago. There's lots of awesome movements about competency-based education and competency-based evaluation. And so it's really gone in the right direction. But so it was oftentimes that the people in the audience were for it. And then we would collaborate, right? And then we would do projects together and we would help spread the word. And, you know, so it was more when you would go back to your own institution that there would be the people like, we'll do it this way, right? And so we would go speak at each other's institutions, right? Because people are always more willing to believe the outsider than you, right? Yeah, you know, I know all this stuff, I've been trained, but like, I know I'll have my friend come and say the same thing, and then you will believe it, and that's like that's how it works, right? So,
oh my God, I could go down an insane psychological rabbit hole. I won't, but that idea is just like so like. Yeah. What? Yeah. I mean, you're so right, but like, yeah. Oh man. All right. Yeah. Keep talking. You're great. I was
it was just fun. And I think as I got older, and then I would start to kind of mentor junior colleagues coming up in, you know, difficult situations. And I mentored both men and women, but I did mentor a lot of women. And so we would talk about, you know, how to speak up for yourself. And again, this is where I felt some of it came in handy, because I would say, okay, I know that you can't stand this person, right? But you're not going to go anywhere or get anywhere if that's how you behave. So you've got to pretend like you're going to get the Academy Award performance. And I would use those words, right, for this, right? And we would talk about how to structure the communication to do it. And I said, this is how you got to do it. Right. And it works. Right. I mean, and if you look at the people who are the best, like, of course they don't enjoy everybody they're working with every day, but they do learn how to get along. Right. And how to like make things happen, even with people that are not your like besties. You have to do that to succeed. And it just was shocking to me how many people would be like, well, I'm not, and I'm like, well, like, that's dumb, you know, like, I mean, you can get your agenda across, but you have to do it in this way. You have to, like, you know, and again, I think that's where being creative in the theater always helped, because I could put on a different persona, right? You know, and that's, and I can change the persona to what's the mood and what's going on in the meeting. And I think that's always just been really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You keep mentioning that you fall back on this idea that like the theater that you did helped you, but I would argue that it's more who you are, that the act of going into dance classes, that the act of acting in plays was just the resource that was put in front of you to do. Not necessarily that, you know, it gave you something, but that you unlocked a part of yourself, that you have, which clearly you do, because it so buoys all of the work that you do that people are telling you to tone it down. Like but that's great. I mean, like I'm a big proponent of strong women. I'm like, oh, tell me to tone it down. I'm ready. If you're not telling me to tone it down, I'm not doing enough. Right. No, meek is not a word that comes near me at all. Right. But, you know, you have to be able to talk and put yourself out there and feel confident in that thing. Now, because confidence isn't something that you make, it's something that you have. Like, I think that you can make it within yourself, like by consciously focusing on this idea that it's like, there's no reason not to believe in me. Look at all these things I've already done. And then you can foster some of it, but clearly you've already had it. People don't want to be ballerinas without having a little confidence, right? Ballerinas are like so highfalutin, right? Like big level, like, whoa, all right, okay. So, I mean, nobody's shy. You're not like, there are no shy ballerinas, right? Yeah. Absolutely not. So you already have this stuff going on with you. How is that continuing to, so are you right now still teaching educators and trying to improve the way that medical schools are running? How does it manifest for you in your larger career? I know that your company does not only helping medical professionals, but also you give, you know, generalized life coaching, or are you mostly life coaching medical professionals? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah. So a couple things. So I think, yes, in my current role, my professional role, I still am trying to, I lead a group of educational leaders to hopefully change how we educate medical students and residents and keep making it better all the time. So yes, so I do that. For the what's been really fun is getting back into theater at now at a later age, and improv is I actually had no idea when I started improv that there was a whole like subset of medical improv. So teaching to medical professionals how to communicate, and so that was just like, and actually Jessica Brown from Station Theater like introduced me to that, and I literally didn't know. And then I was like, oh my gosh, and then it seemed like I would open a journal and be like, there it is, like, so then I've started dipping my toe in that. So giving a few talks on how I think a riff on, everything I needed to know about communication I learned at improv, right? And that's going to be a talk that I'm actually giving soon. So that's been a really fun evolution. And then the coaching, I think where that's actually a relatively newish thing. So I've been mentoring and coaching people just in my job, like for now, 20 years, but, and I'm mostly coaching now, still it's medical professionals, but it has just started to open up to other professionals. And I think what happened so I underwent coaching myself, and I went through this program. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who it is or whatever. It's one of the pretty famous, life coaching programs that are out there. And it was truly like life changing. Like I'm not like it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm this old and I've never kind of known these concepts before. Like I felt like an idiot. And it was so amazing that I want to tell people about this. So wow, this is literally helped change my life. And so, because I think I was doing more executive coaching, more with my how do you move up the ladder? How do you do that? And this is more really about your life, right? Which obviously affects your career. If you have certain thoughts that you can only do this, or whatever beliefs about X, Y, and Z, it's going to limit you in some ways. So I think both of them actually dovetail really nicely together, that I can help tell you how to move up the ladder a little bit, things you have to do to advocate for yourself. And, but I can also now use this other, these life coaching skills with it. And it's just super fun. It's just fun. That is super fun.
Man, that sounds like what what got you to this point where you took the improv? Like, it seems like these things are enrichment in a lifestyle that doesn't seem to have a lot of time for that. Yeah. Like, I know we were talking about how wellness is new, but so is self-care. And, right. But you're like doing all of these, even just taking the improv class in the midst of what I'm sure is a packed schedule was wild. But now it's like, now you're doing these new, different speeches and you're doing these amazing workshops to improve yourself. Like, how do you, like, what motivated you to give yourself that time?
So I think honestly, I was just getting really burned out. Like, there's just no other way to say it. I was just getting really, really burned out. I still enjoyed my work, but it was just a lot. And there was no like release. Like, there was no, any place to get like your dopamine hit from or anything, it was just, I just decided, I was having a big milestone birthday, and I just decided that, it's like now or never, like, you're like, maybe you need to get back to your roots or whatever. And so I started with actually not improv, but I started with just taking a community theater class, and I was terrified. Like, I literally, like, my husband had to like shove me out the door because like I didn't want to go on the first day. I was so nervous and I was so terrified, but it was so fun. And I think what was shocking is that most of the people in the room were like near my age. Like, I wasn't expecting that. I thought I was going to be this old lady and, there, but actually there were several people older than me, many my age, a couple younger. So it was great. And then after that, two of us from the class said, oh, let's just go to this like free, like little improv class, just for the heck of it. So two of us ventured to this like little free improv class. And then I was like, oh my God, like, this is so fun and crazy. And then I think, and then when I started taking classes, the improv classes, I think the geek in me, like, there's like a science to improv, right? I mean, there's rules and there's structure and there's things you have to do that clearly make it work. And so that was fascinating too, like, that, because there is a type A part of me that still is in the brain, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, you have to do that. You have to yes and, you have to create the relationship between the two people, or it makes no sense, or it makes it better if they see, like, the audience sees, they're like, oh, you have to like all this stuff. Like, it was super cool. I loved it. Yeah.
Man, I hope your type A is going to be okay when you get to the point where they go, okay, now throw away the rules. And you're like, what? And they're like, yep, that's it. Improv. Everything you learned, you can use it, or you don't have to. Do it.
I will probably not, like, yeah, that will be super hard for me. Yes, I will probably have a panic attack.
This is legitimately why I teach level 1, because it's all about structure, and I'm a big structure gal. And and because I teach them, I get to stay mired in it. But since talking to people the world over about improv, I'm like, oh yeah, no, you can do it anyway. Like, there's so many different ways that people are doing it where they're like, no, we don't do that at all. And you're like, really? Yeah. And you're like, okay, great. I want to find out how you do it. Like, but I'm totally, it's like so fascinating that this, I feel like we're all just sort of like trying to find this jewel in a, in a vast, we're looking at a treasure map, and we're just like reading it differently, but we're still headed to the same place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the structure as well. It's very fun. There's something nice about it. The other reason why I like teaching level 1 is because I like reassuring people that there's a structure and that, so they're like, well, I don't know if I can do it. And I was like, listen, you can do it. Yeah. Like, it's not a matter of can or can't. Like, you can, whether you like have fun doing it or it like makes sense to you, maybe. Who knows? But the like act of it, I mean, we can all do it. It's very structured. You just keep focused on that. You're good. Even comedy. That's the other thing too, is I was like, listen, comedy doesn't always work, but if you play by the rules, then if you like follow this path, then generally you'll do it. Maybe you won't get the exact detail that was the funniest thing, but the path is still there. Right. And that's helpful. It's not like you're rebuilding the road. to that end, so since you have gotten into improv and this idea of, you know, having a structure, but sort of inventing in the moment, how has that helped you in your talks about medical education? Like, not the ones that are necessarily about improv, like the talks that you're doing about improv, because that's a specific talk, but like just how for you have you changed such that you're able to communicate now to someone about what professionalism is or what certain educational structures could help the brain based on what you've learned?
Yeah. So I think, and this may sound corny, but like, I think the hugest thing is just the yes and, like, because I think I was probably, you know, I can't, let's see, I'm not combative. Obviously you can't be a leader and be combative, but I could be a little pushy, or, you know, or I certainly was one of those people that while they're talking, you know, I was just thinking about what my comeback was, you know, rather than be listening. Right. And so I think it made me listen much better. And that, we talk a lot about, you know, just in conversations at administrative levels, trying to find where that shared space is. And I don't think I ever really got it until I did improv. And then it's like, okay, you could actually be saying something totally opposite for me, but by yes-anding something that you've said, we can probably, I think we can get to a shared understanding of where we want to go better. And that super simple principle is, I mean, again, it's just so helpful in talking, right? And and I've read a lot of stuff on the business of improv, you know, and about how saying yes and doesn't mean that you're, because people will say, well, you know, how can yes and means you're agreeing? Like, no, it doesn't mean that you're agreeing. You're just allowing things to come for a little bit without any judgment and seeing where it goes. And so that's just been huge, like huge. Like I talk to people about that, and you know, I really I didn't realize it, but very long time ago when I was very junior, I had a colleague who I don't think she'd ever done improv, but she had what she called the theory of yes, you know, and she would be very funny, and she would say, like, if a mom comes in and says that, you know, their kid is very sick, blah blah blah, you know, and you need to do this, you just say yes. If we need to cut off their toes to fix this, we will do that. Yes, we will do that, ma'am. Or, you know, yes, but, you know, and yes, we could try this first. And it just hit me, like, I remember her, and she used to say this theory of yes. And like, you know, that's kind of what this yes anding is a little bit. And it was, it was pretty cool. So
Absolutely. It's definitely a situation in which you are being open, creating an empathy for this other person and their point of view, such that your yes-anding is a sort of, I accept whatever you're going to contribute to this conversation, and I'm not going to ruin that. I'm just going to augment that. And I think that's exactly what your teacher was saying with the theory of yes. Like, yeah, that thing that the mother is suggesting as the how to fix it might not be the right thing, but they're having a tough time. Just say yes, it'll make them feel better, and then you can move forward in that. The interesting thing about improv in your workplace too is one of the things that comedians are always talking about, and given the fact that you've spent some time in an improv theater, I feel you've probably been privy to this conversation, is the discussion of improvisers to stand-ups, right? Because like everyone who's not in comedy just thinks all comedy is stand-up. So like you'll meet somebody and you'll be like, oh, I take improv classes. And you'll be like, have you met Jenny? She does stand-up. And you're like, okay, no, that's not what I do at all. But it makes me think, as you're talking about like the doctors and how you're trying to introduce these collaborative mindsets, that they're training doctors like stand-ups, meaning stand-ups are alone. They're on stage. They have to come up with their own stuff. They have to defend their own stuff. They're alone. No one's going to have their back. They have to do all the work and give it to you and deal with whatever comes back from you by themselves, right? So there is an extra thick skin that a stand-up has to develop to do their work, right? They want to do this. This is something great, but part of their work is to go and be abused by people to find out, oh, this joke works better in this way because 45% of the people yelled at me when I said it the other way, right? And that's like legitimately how they have to learn, right? But I wonder if some of the like, you know, browbeating of medical school and also this individualist nature that definitely is built into, you know, creating doctors, you know, because it's like, you're on your own. You have to handle this. This is your problem. Like, and there's some high stakes stuff. So I get having to like, almost to harken back to like the army thing where like there's a person who they have to really get you mentally prepared for this. Like everything is high stakes from morning, noon and night. Everything is high stakes. How are you going to handle it? Right? So they have to get real rough with you because it's like, this isn't fun. Yeah, this is real life. You know, when they say it's not brain surgery, it is brain surgery. Like, this is the thing they compare everything else to. This is the, you know, and that's a big deal. There are people who, and some people can't get through their own having to be a brain surgeon without that shell of bravado, that shell of like, I don't know if you know I'm the best. Yeah. Yeah, I am. I'm a brain surgeon. And you're like, oh, all right, well. You're right. It's like I saw this guy on TV and I was like, who's this schmo? And my husband's like, he's a rocket scientist, an actual rocket scientist. And I was like, oh, all right. He's amazing. Like, you know, so these two jobs are kind of the ones that's our like, if you can do those, there's nowhere else to go. Like, but so there's an individualist nature to it. There's a like, you do it on your own, do it on your own. And as you can imagine in the stand-up community, they think that improv is just silly and not something they want to get involved in. I imagine you're getting that same response from strong individualist doctors who are all like, listen, I'm not going to collaborate. All right. I don't know if you know I'm amazing. So my jokes first, right? How are you as a strong female, as we've established, who doesn't take any guff? How are you combating that sort of like bravado? How are you creating a space for people to be the softer, more communicative, truly listening kind of doctors that, you know, you and I clearly know we need?
Yeah. So I think several ways. So one, there's actually hardcore data because a lot of, you know, physicians and scientists like data. So there's hardcore data showing that communication, it leads to less lawsuits, right? It leads to better outcomes, the more communicative you are with your patients. So there is actually some hardcore data to go with it. I think also in my relationships with people where I have had to kind of fight for things or be persuasive, you know, with some people who are, as you describe, my way works. so I see, I'm just like, I'm like, it works, you know, so that I can demonstrate.
Yeah, we're all like that. It's okay.
You know, right. Yeah. So like, you know, like just go with me here for a minute. And then, you know, we can always change things. We do continuous quality improvement. Like if it doesn't work, we can change things. Right. So just, let's give this a try. And
that sounds like flexibility to me. Don't you're not so hard nosed. You're flexible and collaborative. Hey, man. It's all right.
Damn it.
You're doing it. You're great. Come on. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I think that you're doing a good job to soften them up. They got to soften up a little bit. Everybody thinks they got to be hard, but world is a different kind of place. And, you know, both with talking to your patients and receiving information into your brain, like they say, you know, I bet you in medical school, people are staying up all night long, not having any sleep until the data came out that they were like, by the way, you actually require that number of hours of sleep. And then they were like, dang it, now I have to make sure I get it because I listened to data, right? I also appreciate the idea of the hardcore data about communication. Good for those people for helping out. They were like, listen, nobody's going to believe this. What can we do? And they're like, oh, let's do a study. Yes. I actually believe that improv could save the world. Like that if everybody really like took in some of the empathetic, like communication sort of things, that we would be able to communicate with each other better, get through some of the arguments. Like I feel like, especially right now in the world, I feel like there's a lot of arguments that are being had and that need to be had. And that the unfortunate part is that not all of us are well schooled in how to have an argument, right? And so unfortunately, a lot of people are putting themselves in a position of, you know, saying, oh, I will listen, but they don't know how to listen, right? In your experience, is that usually where you have to start with people? There's communication, which is, this is how I put information out there. This is how I present myself, how I act like a compassionate doctor, which is fine. Hey guys, listen, if it's not your natural forte, please, just a quick acting lesson, compassionate doctor. There's a lot of them on TV. Just pretend to be that guy. Right? It's fine. But like, how are they doing the other half, right? Like, how are they receiving, like listening? What are you doing to help them learn that part of improv?
So we actually do really truly teach communication skills, like truly, like the listening pieces, right? That is a huge piece of it. And I actually think we need to do a lot more in that vein, to be really honest with you. I don't think we're quite there yet, but we really do. We do start with listening. And I think that education is getting better too in teaching some of those soft skills. So for example, like meditation, you know, things like that, which helps people kind of calm down to be ready to receive information, and how to communicate. So we really are looking at those sorts of things too. So we're getting there, right? It's not 100%, but I think we're definitely getting there. And I think the other thing too that's been actually really helpful is that one of our major organizations, it's called the AAMC, the American Association of Medical Colleges, they actually highlighted improv in teaching communication techniques. And so that was actually a huge, like, look, our big organization is saying there might be something to this. And so that was actually super exciting too, to actually see that happen. Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's like getting like an official stamp of approval. It's like, you're not the satellite people with a wacky idea anymore. Now it's like, by the way, actually helpful.
Right.
Like, oh. Right. It's back to the thing that we were talking about earlier, where it's like, you can talk till you're blue in the face telling people something, but you need some stranger to swing in and be like, did you know this was legit? And they're like, really? I had no idea. And you're like, I've literally been telling you for 20 years. What are you talking about? You had no idea. Are you kidding? I come every year. You know me. I'm the lady who talks about improv.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, we've been talking a lot about your business, you know, and how you have, you know, personally used your natural ability for communication and, you know, performance to teach other people to help create a better environment for doctors who are coming up. And I'm sure they thank you. What about you, though? You took improv classes, and then, you know, we all know theaters aren't happening. But like, so what's the way that you're creatively exciting yourself now? What's igniting the spark in this time when I'm sure you have plenty of medical work to do, but far less, you know, of this wonderful improv to, you know, buoy the tough times?
Yeah. So and we are just back. So we just started to resume classes, which has been wonderful. And although I have to say that our first class back was not the best. They say, you know, like riding a bike, but maybe not. So we were pretty rusty. But no, until then. So I honestly think so. I created the business last June. It's interesting because it was right in the middle of the pandemic, and it was, as you talked about before, like, how do you have time? And my husband always say, if you really wanted to do it, you would stop talking about it and you would find a time and you would just do it. And so I haven't really correlated, like, if it was the pandemic that made me do it or not, but it's been a huge creative outlet, right? Like, so, and again, just like new learning, like how to make a website and how to, you know, how to do all this stuff. And I changed all the time. And I'll go on a walk, and I think of like a million ideas of like things I want to do, and how to advertise and who to connect with. And I've been connecting with just all different kinds of people that I would never have connected with before. And so I really think that the business has become during that time when you couldn't really do much, my creativity outlet, right? It's absolutely been my creativity outlet, and it's been super fun. And it's a huge passion of mine. And I get so excited when I get to kind of work on the business or, learning social media. So I'm pretty good on LinkedIn, but so Instagram, not so much, but I did doing Instagram lives, and it's just so crazy. But the very first one, I was like terrified, right? I was like, oh, I don't know. And then it's like, what were you scared of? Like, why were you scared of doing? It's just you like talking, like it's actually probably more natural than giving anything else you do. But like, so I've started doing that, and, so it's really, it's a huge creative process, and it's super fun. I like love it. Like, yeah, I love it.
That's so great. And I'm sure the opportunity to talk to people about their lives and help them has been, like I mentioned, how the podcast is my social outlet. That is your social outlet. You can talk to people and you're like, tell me how I can help you. Please, let's talk for a while.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yep. Totally. Yep. Yeah. It's so crazy. I think too, like I really was kind of skeptical at first about how can you make these relationships with people you've never met before? Like, is that a real relationship, or like, what is that like? But like you were saying, with Zoom and everything, like you do feel like I feel like these connections are real, like with the few people that, it's really interesting. And in fact, this talk that I'm going to be giving, I'm doing with a partner, and it'll be our first time meeting in person, right? We've been connecting this whole year through Zoom. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That's so wild. Mm-hmm. I wish there was like an appropriate way to like meet for the first time. Like, I don't know. It just feels so weird. And like, what a weird year. Like when I meet people for the first time, I always want to hug. And I was like, can we hug? Yeah, man. People have, the beauty of it is people who have physical boundaries are really getting their heyday right now. Yeah. And then it'll become something that you really have to check with as we move forward. Yes, and then that'll really help with, consent and whatnot, because it's like, can we shake hands? Can we hug? Yep. Can I stand close to you? No, none of those things. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. I just try to be easygoing with whatever it is, but oh man, that's so great. I'm so glad that you get to connect with people. I'm so glad that you're going to like meet your new, your friend that you've been working with online this whole time. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I truly do believe, I've made a lot of connections. First of all, every time I do a podcast interview, I feel like the person's my best friend by the end. Yeah. Like, it's just like, we get to spend this time together. We're talking about, something that we care about. So it is a helpful way to connect us. And, adult friendships are hard, man. Like, when are you ever really, I have a handful of mom friends, but we're mostly like diapers, am I right? You know what I mean? Like, it's not, but I love all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being part of this and for, putting your creative energy into making medical school a better experience. Like, what a thing to do. Like, you had a terrible time, and instead of just being like, I blocked it out, I've moved forward, I'm this now, I'm happy again, you're like, okay, but those people are having a rough time. Let's change this so that maybe they learn a few of the like real skills. It's just been so great to talk to you. I just feel such, sort of like hope for doctors, I'm like, hey, they might get a full life experience instead of the like beaten into a tiny drum kind of one that they've had for a long time. Yeah. Oh man, so good. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, and thank you for sharing your stories.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks for listening to Yes But Why podcast. Check out all our episodes on yesbutwhypodcast.com or Check out all the content on our network, HC Universal, at hcuniversalnetwork.com.